Welcome, everyone. I'd like to now call this meeting to order. This is the board meeting for the Wiseburn Unified School District for June 7th, 2022. Great to see your faces. Thank you guys. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for joining us at home. Thank you also to our cabinet and the volunteer board members with us here tonight. It's a regularly scheduled board meeting. We will have a few special presentations on elementary professional learning and collaboration, on Universal Pre-K Extended Learning Opportunities Plan, state mandated, and some resolutions honoring some long-term contributors that we want to recognize who are retiring, and our resolution recognizing LGBTQI+. With that said, can we have the flag salute? Dr. Harbeck, if you
Stand. Hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
Yeah, motion.
Okay.
Nelson. Second, thank you. Now, we'll turn to public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening?
At this time, let me scroll down. At this time, I do not have any public comments.
I also want to call out and mention the share your thoughts that we received very eloquent thoughts this week. Particularly the primary themes were two. One on the early bird, late bird conversation, and good conversation on both sides of that argument, as well as some recognition for the resolution for LGBTQ month and very giving us praise and thoughts for that. So thank you for those. Well, now move to 3.3 special presentation number 1. And Dr. Silvers, I want to turn it to you if you would introduce this, please.
Sure, I'm going to actually turn Tyler, introduce Mr. Rios. We're just happy every year we have our principals come and present school-based. This time we've broken down into themes. So do you want to?
All right. So Principal Rios is here tonight. Thank you for being here. And he's offered to bring a presentation to the board regarding our collaborative spirit with our teachers this year, our adult learners. Very different than what we've done before, and I'm glad that Principal Rios has chosen to present on this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Board President Dr. Goldman, Vice President Martinez, board members, Dr. Silvers, cabinet. So tonight I get to share a little of the great work that our adult learners have done in the elementary through our elementary professional learning and collaboration. All right, so the goal of our presentation is just to share the professional learning and collaboration of our educators. This aligns with our assurances of safety, student center, future ready, community, and collaboration. All right, so this year was really our year of enhancement. We wanted to enhance our instructional practices across the board with our teachers, and we really wanted to focus on 3 big areas: Writers Workshop, CGI, and Second Step. So across our elementaries, all TK through 5th grade teachers were trained and supported in Writers Workshop. Specifically at 138, we were fortunate to receive the Coatson grant, where we had 1 mentor and 7 fellows focus on Writers Workshop. In the area of CGI, again, across all elementaries, we really enhanced our practice in mathematics through our CGI strategies. Teachers received lab days to support instructional practices with the amazing guru Danielle Moore, who's one of the forefront leaders in CGI practice. And then finally, our third was Second Step. We really embraced the DEI and kind of just making sure our kids were ready for school. So across our 3 elementary schools, teachers were trained and supported in Second Step. Specifically for 138, we really incorporated into our Wednesday morning assemblies. We have our lead counselor, Julie Walker, who does an amazing Jokes with Julie, but also kicks off the learning of engaging our kids. Like when we walk back to class, we're really going to focus on empathy, or when we walk back to class, we're really going to start to think about whatever that concept is for that week through the Second Step curriculum. All right, so how do we support the big 3 over the course of the year? So teachers received collaboration time to engage their colleagues in professional learning. They had weekly meetings with the Writing TOSA and Science TOSA throughout the week. They received 3 full days of training through Momentum and 10 lab days of CGI, and that was across all elementary schools. All right, so specifically for 138, we received the Coatson mentor Coatson grant. Unfortunately, Ms. Mahana was going to present, but she couldn't make it with us, but she put a video together to share all the amazing work that our teachers have done with Coatson and at 138.
Good evening, Dr. Goldman, Dr. Silvers, and the esteemed Wiseburn School Board. My name is Tricia Maano, and I'm the current Coatson mentor at 138th Street School. The Coatson Foundation for the Art of Teaching is a 2-year mentoring and coaching program, which has allowed myself as the mentor to coach and work with 7 amazing teachers on my campus. Coatson has provided us amazing resources such as content, professional development in the area of Writers Workshop, equity trainings, numerous resources such as books and different programs that we can attend to just better our craft as teachers. But the biggest benefit of Coatson that the fellows and I all agree on is the gift of time. The time for the coaching cycle and our inquiry meetings where we can plan, I observe, we debrief.
There's more, I promise.
She's just taking some time.
She is. She's buffering.
Good evening, Dr. Goldman, Dr. Silvers, and the esteemed Wiseburn School Board. My name is Tricia Maano, and I'm the current Coatson mentor at 138th Street School. The Coatson Foundation for the Art of Teaching is a 2-year mentoring and coaching program, which has allowed myself as the mentor to coach and work with 7 amazing teachers on my campus. Coatson has provided us amazing resources such as content, professional development in the area of Writers Workshop, equity trainings, numerous resources such as books and different programs that we can attend to just better our craft as teachers. But the biggest benefit of Coatson that the fellows and I all agree on is the gift of time. The time for the coaching cycle and our inquiry meetings where we can plan, I observe, we debrief that, reflect, has just been so amazing in honing in on the teacher's craft, in honing in on what the students' needs are, and above all, just making sure that our students are getting the best writing workshop experience possible. I am so excited to continue this journey next year. The growth and reflection has been so amazing already, and I invite you to watch this next video to see a little bit about what's going on in classrooms and how our teachers are learning. Thank you so much for letting me speak with you tonight, and enjoy.
Coatson provides the time, but also the collaboration with like-minded and the same goal-oriented people so that we can work toward building our practice in that. And it's been hugely powerful being able to spend time with a mentor and other fellows and work together on a common goal. The PD that's provided is just beyond measure. I know that I got to visit another school, which is a huge part of how we grow as educators. And what I saw the other teachers doing this work just are filled with enthusiasm, and you come back just ready to work. You get to see the ideas, you get to learn new things, and then you collaborate with your teammates on what you saw and what you learned to build that up here. So I have seen my students grow leaps and bounds this year in writing, especially since we're doing Writers Workshop. We feel supported, and in a crazy time when we don't really have a lot of answers, but Coatson enables us to feel safe and supported. And what's great is that even though our cohort is focusing on Writers Workshop, the way that Coatson works in and out of the classroom, our knowledge and our collaboration extends beyond writing it.
So much of the time as teachers, we ask our students to plan, revise, and reflect, especially when they're writing. And Coatson this year has really allowed me as the teacher and the facilitator the opportunity to do that. I am on this journey with my students. I am reflecting and I am improving on areas that I want to achieve in. I think it inspires the students to see that their teacher is also taking risks and is excited about what we're learning.
You guys are so good for dictating. I don't know. Let's get set. Ready? Say with me. This is such a fine, fine school. I love.
In the beginning, I really did not like writing at all. And now that I've actually done two books of writing, I feel like when I grow up, I can become a writer, or I can now feel more confident when I have to write.
So that kind of although Coatson just works with those teachers, that kind of bleeds through our whole school and kind of just embodies that just creative aspect and just collaboration with our teachers. Because for us specifically, we have 2 representatives in every grade level. So when they come together as a team, those ideas are shared among all our teachers. But not only teachers, us administrators also enhance our practices this year. So this year we continue to work with the principal's work group with Talking Teaching Network. We also received training on Second Step for adults, inclusive practices through administrators, communication and social media with Eric Porter, breakthrough coaching, and just to help us guide our guiding coalitions, we worked on focus on leadership and collaboration strategies with Rich Smith. So I want to thank you for your time. That concludes my presentation.
Very inspiring. Just wonderful to see these magnificent teachers in action. Thank you. Wonderful.
Are we continuing? Or what happens after this?
Yes, so Coatson is a 2-year program. So we'll continue this year and next year as well. And the fellows will remain the same.
It'll be the same.
Yeah.
And Dr. Silvers, if you could update, I believe, aren't we adopting additional school next year?
We are. I was going to mention it in my comments, but I'll say it now. Probably a better time is that we're really thankful that Hampton, Albert, you're here. Why don't you come up and introduce it? It's for your school. Sure. It would be great if you, since you're here.
So yeah, we are working with Coatson for the next 2 years. Emma Smiley has been selected as a mentor teacher, and she will have 6 fellows with her. Coatson's taken a different approach this year. They're letting teachers decide the area of focus that they want. That doesn't limit them from attending other conferences, where in the past you'd have a cohort that was working together. Like for example, at 138, they're all doing writing together. In this model, the teachers, the fellows are actually picking their own. And out of the 6 teachers, 5 are going with math. And one of them is going to try guided reading or small group reading. And Emma, as the mentor, will learn how to be a coach and learn how to facilitate and help them reflect and process through it all. So, more to come.
I'm really happy to hear about the math selection. That's really encouraging. I mean, obviously writing, it's all important, so it's not like one has a priority, but I'm really happy to hear about the math. I'll be really anxious to see the results from that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you again. Let's move to our special presentation number 2, item 3.4, Universal Pre-K Extended Learning Opportunities Plan. Dr. Harber.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Goldman, for introducing me. We have 2 presentations tonight. They're actually back to back, and they both go under Assembly Bill 130, which is an umbrella California Assembly Bill. It encompasses all sorts of things: our independent study program, teacher recruitment and training, our multi-tiered systems of support, some special ed topics, as well as the expanded learning opportunity program and our universal pre-K plan. So this is really a large assembly bill that you might hear about in the news. But both the UPK plan, we're going to call it UPK, and the what we call E-Loop. It's a strange name, and it's named that because there was also an ELOP grant that came last year. So they're kind of differentiating with the way you pronounce it. But the E-Loop plan, they must be presented to governing board prior to June 30th. So that's why we're here tonight. Our goal tonight is to provide an overview of these plans as well as the steps we've taken to develop them. I want to note that in addition to the requirements, there is an expenditure data request coming later. They haven't given us the parameters for that yet. So tonight we won't be able to talk about that, just about our plan. Is this slide 2? Yeah. Okay. So according to the California Department of Education, research demonstrates that an early and strong foundation for learning matters, and that children who have effective learning opportunities before kindergarten have an advantage in school, in life, over children who do not, especially children with adverse childhood experiences. The UPK, or Universal Pre-K Plan, and implementation grant support expansion of early learning programs that include transitional kindergarten, a program we now have in our district, with the goal of achieving universal eligibility for all 4-year-olds by the year 2025-26. That's long range, what we call a phased-in implementation. While the grant is estimated at a total of $200 million, Weisburn is in line to is anticipating approximately $138,000 in this grant to be spent by 2026. So the plan is organized just as you see it there. This is given to us by the California Department of Education. As you look at the plan tonight, it comes up later in our agenda. Many of these responses are drop-down menus. So we didn't really get to write our own narratives. We had to choose from a drop-down menu for many of these. So I just want to point that out. But we did do quite a bit of work when we were looking at enrollment, focusing on the areas and going to the many meetings that the CDE and Los Angeles County Office of Education offered. So they've asked us to go ahead and look at projections and eligibility for this program. What you'll see across the top are the years as we proceed from this year all the way over to 2025, 26, and then how the birthdays change. So it's really a progression. This year, for students who turn 5 between September 2nd and December 31st, we had a current enrollment of 61. Now that's not a full enrollment. In fact, last year we did not max out on our TK either with enrollment. We were under enrolled. So in going forward, now that we've expanded the birth date to February 2nd for 22-23, we're anticipating full enrollment. To date, and I checked today, we have 15 students between, believe it or not, January 1st and February 2nd enrolling in TK next year. So we are recouping many of those spaces next year. So that's coming in. So we're anticipating a full 24 per class. The ratio for student to staff changes from 24-1 this year, next year 12-1, and as it goes forward 10-1, which means you have to have 2 adults in the room because we do put our classes at 24 and then the following year at 20. So you'll have a credentialed teacher and instructional aide. And then it proceeds, I'm sorry, could you go back for a second? And that proceeds up. We are conservative on our numbers here, just adding 1 classroom. Of course, we can change that if things change going forward, but we think as we expand the birth date that we would have more children enrolling. Yep.
That 138,000, to what extent is that covering these costs?
So I'm going to go over that in just
You'll get there all stuff.
Yep, it's going over there. It covers a number of things. It covers, I'll just talk about now. It covers planning, which is our, however you need to do that. But it also covers materials, classroom supplies, recruitment of teachers, if we need to go out and do any work with that. It's a multiple of things. It doesn't expand past that though. It's really just planning the materials. So part of the plan requires that we work with our educational partners. We did work with our principals, the cabinet, engaged with our TK staff. I want to thank Ms. Wilberg and Principal Paredes for helping with that and working with their teachers and talking to their school site councils. We also, as I said, attended many meetings and talked to our local chief instructional officers in the area. Torrance was super helpful. We all engaged with El Segundo, Hermosa, all the way up the coast to Beverly Hills to talk to how people are bringing about this TK plan. For curriculum instruction and meeting with our TK teachers, we found that they're interested in piloting a new phonics program, Fontes and Pinnell. It's well known, we already use it in our intervention program. We're also going to bring back mystery science for the small children. You know, we are adopting Elevate for K through 8, but there is no real standards for TK yet. There's frameworks, but there's no science standards. So we're going to go with mystery science. And they're also going to be working with Joanne Michael, our science TOSA, who's bringing in just a plethora of activities for those kids. Our cognitively guided instruction is going to continue. They are looking at social studies from My World, which is our existing adoption, but also they focus on holidays and TK, which I found very interesting. And then our continuing music and PE programs. And then for facilities, we have our facilities master plan going on that everyone's been working on that also calls out some additional TK rooms. We are looking at our preschool enrollment. How are we enrolling over at our preschool? What ages do we have coming up? And we are monitoring our TK enrollment as well. So that's our UPK program. The eLoop program, Sarah has worked on. This was her project and she spent a good deal of time on. She unfortunately couldn't be here tonight and is not feeling well, but she has sent a recording and asked that we play it so she could walk you through the work that she did on the eLoop.
Good evening, Dr. Silvers, members of the board, members of the community. My name is Sarah Nitzos, and I'm going to talk to you about the ELO program, hereafter called the eLoop, as we are looping children in. The eLoop stands for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. It provides funding to offer a 9-hour day inclusive of the school day and 30 additional days to identified UPP students in TK through 6th grade. UPP stands for Unduplicated Pupil Population. That would be our students experiencing homelessness, students in foster care, and students identified as socioeconomically disadvantaged. This grant will provide $4.4 million to California, and it is going to support on a 2-tiered implementation. Tier 1 is for school districts that have more than 75% of their students free and reduced lunch, and Tier 2 is less than 75%. That's us. The Expanded Learning Opportunity programs are really student-centered. They're results-driven, include community partners, and complement but don't replicate things that take place during the school day. For 2022-23, we will be looking to implement a pilot. The governor has delayed the associated auditing requirements from 2022 to 2023, which allows us to have this pilot year. For 22-23, we are looking at an estimated funding of $1,500 per unduplicated student. That funding is still in flux as the legislature approves the various bills. Similar to the UPK plan, the eLoop is organized in the way the state has laid out. However, I would like to restructure it for us based on our Wiseburn assurances. The assurance for safety is encapsulated in Plan Program A. Our pillars for student-centered and future-ready are exemplified in sections B, C, D, and E. Community and collaboration are addressed in sections F, J, and I. And finally, organizational strength is covered in sections G, H, and K. As you can see, the eLoop program is really focused on our assurances here in Wiseburn. Part of our community partnership is really to grow and develop our partnership that has already been established with Right at School. Right at School has been an amazing partner through all of this. We have developed the hours that students will be utilizing after school. We're working with them to provide facilities. They're working on their staffing and their programming. We looked at LCAP survey data to really kind of get the community perspective. I'm going to skip over the middle bubble for just a minute and focus your attention to the final piece. We will continue our collaboration with Right at School to identify spaces and places for this program. Finally, we will be utilizing our CalPADS data to identify our students who are most in need of this program and launching a full-scale family outreach. I'd now like to hand it over to Ms. Dyroff to talk a little bit about the expanded learning program with Right at School.
I would like to welcome Ann here tonight. She's just been a terrific partner and working one-on-one with Sarah Nitsos on developing this plan. So welcome, Ann.
Thank you. I'm Anna Dyroff with Right at School. And just a little bit about us. I mean, most of you guys know me from being in childcare for a really long time. For Right at School, what makes us really special is our disguised learning. The kids really have a great time. Like I can talk about snack, I can talk about homework. We do all the things that we've always done. What makes us special is this disguised learning. We take things like, we did a whole unit on pendulum painting. Actually, it was a whole unit on movement. And we talked about, you know, the science part, the Jackson Pollock, the artist, and we actually built pendulums and let the kids paint. And we had paint going and, you know, it was a good time. So that's the hands-on fun that's connected to all the other things. And it's all provided for like us, for our curriculum team. So we have like all this backing of, you know, people that come up with these things for our teachers and then we facilitate it to the students. So we just have a lot of fun and, you know, look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you very much, Anna. All right, thank you so much. I think that concludes it. Move ahead. I think that concludes the presentations. Can I answer any questions? Okay, we'll be coming back to you once we have our expenditure plans laid out, once we have some approvals from the governor.
I think you mentioned this, but can you remind us how many students in the district are currently would be affected by the ELIP program?
660.
And so that would be the number of students who would be sort of prioritized into that funding piece.
I have a question about funding, actually. You mentioned $136,000 for planning
For the UPK
for
plan.
the
Yes,
UPK plan. Is that like a one-shot deal? That's one-time funding?
that is our understanding. It's one-time funding.
Okay. All right, thanks.
All right. Thank you.
I have one question. I saw the, oh, I'm sorry. I saw the student count, the projected count for the UPK. What about facilities for the students? Or is there a need for facilities?
Depending on our enrollment, there would be, we'd have to expand.
So current year, sorry. Next year,
Next year.
we'll be fine. I think we're gonna have to start really evaluating our numbers next year, projecting for the following year and determine what our needs would be for, I guess that would be 23, 24.
Mhm. Right, and that's why the genius behind this is that this is a pilot year and we're not audited. So we're able to make sure that we're looking, and I say audited in terms of the CDE. So usually they have a lot of have-tos the first year, but this year they haven't. And districts across California are working through. It's very difficult to plan for this because of the numbers and the funding not being as high as we'd like it to be.
And I would add to Nelson that one of the things we're looking at is a second round of funding, you know, from the state that we may be able to be eligible for facilities for UPK. First round, we just weren't. It didn't work for us. We didn't need it, but the next round we may, and then we'll start funding options. Should we need to look at some non-permanent facilities, or even some more semi-permanent facilities?
And I assume the two sites that would be impacted the most are obviously Anza and Cabrillo at this time.
Okay, thank you. Is that what we're showing in our current facilities master plan with the pre-K at Cabrillo? So right now we're forecasting that it's just not built for those
Right.
facilities yet, right?
Yes.
We are anticipating that needed facilities and then the master plan.
That's correct. And then one more thing to this big picture of projecting students for the future.
we had, I believe some years ago, Dr. Silvers, we had a company we had hired who was going to be doing an analysis and an audit and projection of how many students. That's dated at this point. The community has dramatically changed. I'd like us to look into, see if we get a little more accuracy. Not that you're inaccurate, I'm saying, but I'm not sure we have enough data to really make good calculations on that. Your thoughts?
No, I think that I'd like to maybe talk to Greg about some opportunities. It's a demographer. We did a demographic study. Maybe we could look at some options. Yeah,
almost an update.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'd be good.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for being here and for your partnership. Really appreciate you at Wright School. Thank you. Let's move now to district updates, section 4, Wiseburn facilities. Dr. Silvers. As you're looking, I don't know if Nelson, you had a comment for us in that area.
In the recreation and community.
Yeah.
So we have a.
Well, in facilities at this point.
Okay. I have no update.
Okay. Dr. Silvers.
Sure. Yeah. So a couple items here. I wanted to just share with the board that we're finally seeing what seems to be a silver lining at the end of the pool. The pool participation. Happy to share that the city they had to have a meeting tonight, but I did communicate earlier today with the city manager. Parts have been ordered. It's probably now weekend since the parts were ordered for the heater fix. Hoping to see that come to fruition here in the next few weeks, and we'll have a better sort of estimated time of fix as I can keep communications up with them. But definitely moving faster than they were, and excited to see that pool used again and be operable. That's the one update, and also just want to thank this board for the participation in last board meeting's facilities master plan. We had a chance to talk to cabinet and really talking to Dr. Goldman today, really align the priorities that this board shared with the facilities master planning process, really are in line with the priorities that we all would see for the district moving forward. So just a really, I think, a good opportunity for us to look at facilities needs, look at the future of this district, outwards, and really start that collaboration. So thank you. That's all on facilities, Dr. Goldman.
Question of facilities, Blake.
Sure.
Will LPA finalize the master plan update and incorporate that board workshop with the priorities and also the town hall and wrap that up into an update and provide that?
Yes,
Is
they
that-
will. They will.
okay.
Yes. And I'm hoping at the 23rd board meeting that will come back to the board.
So 23rd, okay.
I'm hoping.
Adopted at that, receive it at that time.
Correct. Will it be receiving consider? Yeah.
All right, let's move to 4.2, Wiseman Recreation and Committee update. Here's your, go for it now.
We are trying to schedule a meeting. We had a meeting scheduled for the 13th, this upcoming Monday. However, there's some conflicts that I have, and I think Rebecca has as well. So we're working on possibly meeting, but I think hopefully sometime that week, right?
Yeah, we also met with the folks at Da Vinci District talking about planning for sports field usage for next year, which I thought was an encouraging, development that we were having those conversations early, including folks in our community like AYSO and Little League, about how we can best use the facilities that we have and what the planning will look like, so we can maybe avoid some of the issues that occurred at the beginning of this year, and things like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought that was excellent. I don't think we've had that meeting,
Yeah.
that dialogue beforehand like that. So, and that was the athletic director, Vicente Bravo, and I think that was it, right? They were the two representatives from Da Vinci. So,
Yeah.
along with, as Rebecca said, some of our community leaders of the sports organization. So it was great. I think to have that dialogue. We have not had that dialogue before.
Great, ahead of the game. Dr. Silvers, anything to add?
I agree. I think.
All right.
I think it was a really good meeting, really productive, and good path forward for us.
Yeah.
Terrific.
The school renaming committee continues. Let's go to 4.3. Dr. Ingram, share us an update if you would.
Definitely. Good evening. We have our third community survey that's live now. It will be live until Sunday, June 12th. And we'll see if we need to extend it at that point. But this survey allows community members and participants to indicate their name suggestions for consideration. They can indicate up to 4 name suggestions and provide rationale for those suggestions as well. On June 2nd, we had our 5th Citizens Advisory Committee. One of the main focuses of that meeting was to develop criteria. So as we receive these name suggestions, we'll have a rule of thumb to kind of gauge and perhaps even qualify certain names for a reduced list that's maybe a little bit more easily digestible for another survey that can go out and folks can indicate their preferences. The committee members met in small groups and developed a list of criteria within each group. And then we met in a larger group and put all of those ideas together and revised that list, which it was presented in a renaming update email that was sent out to the general community today. So you might have seen that list. It's a draft. So our committee members are anticipating feedback from you all and from anyone else who would like to provide feedback. But that criteria includes, let's see, criteria as follows: of positive timeless significance and importance within the greater Los Angeles area. So that's not necessarily meaning that an individual has to have resided in Los Angeles, but that person's contributions are meaningful to our residents and our community members. Able to be researched heavily and ample documentary evidence. Thematically cohesive across all school sites while representative of the diversity within the community and distinguishable from other local schools. If an individual, someone who's deceased, and if an individual, someone whose life and evolution of character amplifies the Wiseburn mission and assurances and exemplifies school site values in order to inspire and motivate the student body. So this criteria was intended to be able to be applied to geographic and individual names. Of course, some of the items on that list are more applicable to individual names. And that's our update.
Thank you, Amy. I have had the opportunity of sitting in on all these meetings, and just my fellow board members letting you know I am silent during these meetings, which is, yes, actually true, and being able to listen and just take it all in. And thank you for the organization of these meetings, and my compliments to the committee members. They're thoughtful, they're big picture thinkers, very impressed with the teachers and the community members and the citizens involved. So thank you to all of them. All right, let's go to the partnership Wiseburn and Da Vinci Schools partnership update. Roger, why don't I start with you? You're on 2 of these committees, so.
All right, let's start with the governance subcommittee. We had our first meeting last week on Friday. Participants in that subcommittee are Neil, myself, Brian Meath, and Derek Boston from Da Vinci Schools. Had a good, positive conversation to kick our group off. It's a big topic to discuss. The next meeting that we'll have a formalized agenda, specifically go through the contents of the Magna Carta, just to really help us guide our conversation. But we did have some immediate steps to improve our communications moving forward. And as we continue to develop, our first piece is Brian and Derek will be sharing with the Da Vinci board in terms of the position that we have here at Wiseburn for our district coordinator of diversity, equity, inclusion, and compliance, Monique Ingram. She and Blake will be making a presentation at a future board meeting of Da Vinci Schools to just go over what that role is and what it means for our requirements for governance, so that we're all in alignment with what to expect moving forward in the years to come, and really to contribute to our effective communication as a team. We also discussed a little bit of news for Blake. We might be looking at our agenda and having a regularly scheduled update from Da Vinci to the Wiseburn board and Wiseburn to the Da Vinci board as to what is happening with our respective schools or our districts, all in an effort to foster our communication, because it does go to governance. So we're looking at creating more commonalities or points of contact and communications amongst the group. And our next meeting for governance is on Tuesday, July 12th. So we got some action items in between, and our next meeting is set.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah. Anything to update Joanne on the facilities? I mean, on the budget of it?
Sure. We actually have our next meeting coming up this Friday, the 10th. Hold on just a second. Sorry. And in preparation for that, we had a meeting this afternoon with Blake and Dr. Ingram and Roger and I met, we have a spreadsheet that we're using as a discussion document between us and Weisburn, or between us and Da Vinci. And it's been great because we're finding that we want to understand better what the items are on the spreadsheet, what the items are that we've agreed to between us in terms of funding, in terms of how that funding is reserved and how it's accumulated and what it means. How it's regulated by Ed Code, how it's regulated by what the needs are between Weisburn and Da Vinci and so on. So it's been really a good learning experience to sort of review our foundation documents and determine if they're still applicable, if so, how, and if not, why not, and how we might want to recommend changing them. So we've had really good cooperation. Thank you to Blake and Monique. Roger and I have worked really well with Brian Meath and Joe Weber. And I think in addition to making progress with the actual tangible items that are on our discussion, our spreadsheet and so on, we're building rapport across the two communities, which is one of the reasons for getting together, of course, as well. In addition to this partnership that we're doing, Dr. Goldman and I are also involved in another part of this partnership, which is to collaborate when board members need to be added to the Da Vinci board if someone resigns or decides not to participate anymore. And there is an opening at this point with the Da Vinci board with Jennifer Morgan leaving the board. And so Dr. Goldman and I are participating in interviews of prospective board members. Those interviews are going to be tomorrow. We're interviewing the same people, of course, that the Da Vinci board is recognizing as well as applicants. So it's a pretty exciting time in the way of collaboration to understand the goals on both sides, to coordinate the goals on both sides, and to arrive at a conclusion and recommendation for a new board member for the Da Vinci board. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So it's been a lot of really good discussion, good communication, and forward-looking actions.
Thank you, Joanne. I think we had a report already from the other committee, so let's continue and now go to section 5, information from the board.
I was wondering, could we just, I know this is atypical, but because we're in the 5 section, number 5, could we just move my report? I'd like to ask Greg to be able to present on the budget. Is there a way that he can do that prior to the?
I see no problem with that. So we're gonna move him up. Mr. Max.
Well, good evening, President Goldman, members of the board. Thank you, Dr. Silver, for accommodating and moving up today. I appreciate that. We wanted to share with you today a little bit about the budget. And this primarily comes out of excerpts from the School Services Conference, some of which I'm sure you've heard about, some of which maybe you haven't. But some of the key drivers to the budget, it's important that we create context as we bring you the budget here in just about 2 weeks. That you have maybe a little bit more background, and during this next 2 weeks, ponder some of the information. If you have questions, feel free to contact us as staff. So I will roll through the charts here just a little bit. We pulled out about 20 or so charts from 120 chart presentation to try and give you kind of the key points of things that will impact the district budget as you work forward. So without going into a lot of detail, there's reference material here, and I will just touch on it. Please stop me if you do have a question. So main themes for the budget, you can see $300 billion budget California this year. That's an eye popper, as School Services has noted, for a number of different things that we all have right up at the top of our agenda. School Services notes that we're all very thankful that transforming public education seems to be slowing down in this May revision because we've had 2 years worth of transformations that we're all getting a little weary of. You know, it's important in creating context of this May revision that we're going to go back, and I'll talk just briefly about the January proposal of government. It really sets the stage for the 22-23 upcoming year budget adoption. So this is a takeoff of that for those that are listening in the audience. And so I wanted to make that reference. So we'll flip the page. You can see the numbers. Interestingly enough, despite what's being characterized as a big windfall, as we move to 22-23, highlighted in yellow under Proposition 98 expenditures, which Prop 98 is where public education is funded. It's actually slightly lower than it's expected to be in 21-22. There's a lot of complications with this on why the numbers look this way, but it's going to feel like we have a lot more money. So that's good news. Flip the next chart, please. And so just talking about Prop 98, you can see how Prop 98 has grown from 2021, 21-22, and then looking forward in 22-23. You'll notice that it's almost flat as we move from this year, 21-22 to 22-23. We're going to see a windfall of dollars because of the growth in the economy and the adjustment to Prop 98 from the inflated economy of this year, but also last year. I'll get into that in just a moment. So let's flip the page on that. And so this is where we talk just a little bit about that. Each year, the state revises the minimum guarantee for Prop 98 for the current year and the prior year, as I just referenced. And since the state has had explosive growth, if you will, in tax revenues, the state owes K-14 one-time supplement funds going back to those 2 years. And that totals $19 billion that is coming home to roost. And that's fortunate for education, of course, but it's largely going to be a lot of one-time money. And you can see the breakdown in the credits. From 2021, we're going to see a settlement of $2.7 billion. And then 21-22, because of higher than expected growth coming out of the pandemic, we're going to see in education, $16.5 billion. That's a lot of money. So where's the governor going to put all that money? So if we flip the page to the next chart, he has both ongoing investments and he has one-time investments. And this chart just simply displays, as I mentioned before, his January proposal for the 2020-22-23 budget as compared to his proposal here in May revised for specific programs. And you'll note there's a great spike on the orange bar, which represents the May revision of LCFF, which is the COLA plus mitigation for lower than expected ADA across the state. So there's more money coming in that than he proposed even in January, specifically a good amount of money, over $1 billion. You can see a whole brand new category in additional LCFF investment. I'll talk about that some more in a moment. You can see an increase, as was noted early, in eLoop to get kids into school and supported earlier in their age group. And then you see some continuing support in universal TK, universal meals, of course, is going to be the more money's funneling that way. And then special education is staying about on par with the January proposal. So all in all, we have ongoing investments of about $12.7 billion, which are pretty significant, about $5 billion higher than was in January. With respect to one-time investments, we see a big boom. If you go to the next page. There we go, thank you. You see a big boom. There is a proposed $8 billion discretionary block grant. This is a one-time funded proposal. It's an awful lot of money. The governor says we need it to keep up with inflationary increases, to offset some ADA losses, as well as declining enrollment in some districts. And we look forward to receiving that. But as I'll share with you in a minute, there's still some debate on how that might come out of the legislature. So we'll talk about that in a moment. You can see some of, just like the last chart, comparisons of where the governor was in his January budget proposal to where he is in the May revision. You see community schools is going to see $1.5 billion that wasn't otherwise proposed in January. And everything else is more or less on par, with exception of deferred maintenance. He's proposing $1.8 billion in deferred maintenance, which is frankly well-deserved, I think, by schools and well needed. So you get a good sense of where he is moving and proposing these dollars that are a boon for education, frankly, in which categories. So these are the one-time investments, and we'll come back to some of that in just a moment. I think we're all aware of the reserve cap that's to be instituted. 10% of reserves. District here, as long as it's under 2,501, is exempt from that. And so that won't factor into our budget planning. And we'll come back on just a quick summary chart and wrap up what the dollars look like again from the May revision from January. Next chart, please. And you can see here, we're going to see in the governor's budget in January, LCFF, local control funding formula, $3.3 billion extra was going to come in his January proposal. Well, in May, that number is now $6.1 billion, almost double. And you can see where it's coming from in the Prop 98 guarantee, the differences in the 3 years noted. Obviously, the biggest differences, 21-22 goes from 99.1 billion to 110.2 billion. Broad jump there. And then 22-23 goes from 1.2 billion to 110 billion. $19 billion in total increase. So the statutory COLA has jumped as well. And of course, one-time discretionary funds, as I just mentioned, has gone up. So again, a lot of money coming in. Some of it still has to be sorted out. The next chart is a planning chart for us in the budgeteering world. It basically breaks down the rates by grade span. And we'll see this in our budget document as it will inform our funding through the LCFF. So it's there for your reference. And I mentioned that some of this is still subject to debate. We can go to the next chart, please. And particularly $2.1 billion in funding to improve and enhance Prop 98 LCFF funding. There are competing bills and competing proposals out there between the governor's May revise, the Assembly, and the Senate. So know that that's not settled. And because it's not settled, it will not be included in our budget when we bring it to you in a couple of weeks. So that'll be an update, however it gets settled out. After the budget is adopted, either at 45 days or first interim. And likewise, in the next chart, the $8 billion discretionary block grant, the Assembly and the Senate have some different ideas about that as well. And so that'll get hammered out in advance of the state adopting their budget, but probably not in time for us to adopt our budget. Yes.
Greg, if I may, just what does this 10.1 billion mean to Weisburd?
Well, you know, it's a lot of one-time money coming in. And we think, you know, it's $1,200 to $1,500 a student. We've got a number on it, and I can't just pull that right out of my head at the moment, but we can certainly get that to you.
You do 1,200 times 2,500.
Yeah. So there's a lot of money out there, but ultimately we'll see how it gets sorted out in the legislative.
Well, we're counting on you, Greg.
Negotiation. Well, is there a commission on that by any chance?
Yes, it goes right to the students.
There you go. Perfect. Love it. Love it. So those are a lot of the big chunks that are informing the budget. There's a few other things just to be aware of. We've all heard of the ADA cliff, which is coming down on a lot of districts pretty hard. Very fortunate here in Weisburn that enrollment is at least stable, not declining. Go to the next chart, please. But you know, it's been interesting as we come out of the pandemic. We know that districts are suffering with declining enrollment, but there's also now this broadening gap in enrollment versus ADA that seems to really be kind of the two-headed monsters the chart may refer to. And so that's really hurting more districts than was ever anticipated. So the governor has proposed some solutions for that. If we go to the next chart. And I think as everybody is aware here, we currently have the options in the blue box of being funded on current year ADA or prior year ADA. And we'll be funded, at least for the purposes of our budget, will be funded on prior year ADA, but no, there's a lot of popularity on an option that the governor and legislature seems to be supporting, and that's computing a 3-year rolling average on ADA. That would certainly benefit the district. So we're taking a conservative approach, and we'll be bringing you a budget based on prior year ADA, but the legislature and the governor do what we suspect they will do. There will be a positive adjustment to that in the future.
About 1%.
Yeah, it was in that neighborhood. Yeah, I think he had 68 kids total.
Comparatively good.
Yeah.
And I would say our caveat to that is our hope is that we, would you get that? Oh, sorry. I knew that. No, our hope is that we are able to rebuild that 1%. I know I think we're really hard on that this year, Alicia at the window. So hopefully our numbers, as we're seeing in TK, will help also offset that.
But outside of the operations of the current year, obviously we look at multi-year, and of course COLAs have been upgraded in multi-year, so you'll see those in your budget as you come forward. And again, this is through school services, and we see certainly in 23-24, cost of living percentage has been up from 3.61 to 5.38. Good news on the revenue side, but generally that happens only because things are getting more expensive. And in 24-25, it's been bumped up a little bit as well. So we'll have that reflected in your multi-year projection. Next chart, please. And so as I mentioned, there's good points, bad points on the multi-year projection. Good news, funded LCFF seems to be increasing. COLAs are going up, one-time federal funds, one-time state funds. But on the other side of the equation, cost of goods and services go up. State pension costs are continuing to go up. We're now hiring people on one-time funds, which is always a tricky issue. and then additional cost to mitigate learning loss is like a whole new program for us also. And no presentation on budget would be complete without a little bit on special education. Good news is they're going to get the full COLA. The special education program, which hasn't always got the full COLA, is proposed to do so along with a $500 million infusion. So it's nice that that program continues to be recognized and the base rate continues to rise per student special education. On the federal side, the next chart, please. We are going to be maintaining federal funding. As you know, the federal government operates on a different year. They're 3 months further out. Their year starts October 1st. And so we will hold constant in this budget coming up. Our federal revenues consistent with the current year. And if there is a bump in October, then we will factor that in, hopefully at first interim for the board and the district. I won't do too much here, as this has already been talked about in the previous presentation, but you know there's expanded learning opportunities funding that is out there. Obviously, I think everybody is excited about that. How it is going to work is like anything, the key. It's a lot of money. It's a great program, but making ends meet on it will be key. If you go to the next chart, there are requirements with it. So was mentioned, we allow carryover funds to 22-23. And that kind of starts the cycle. And you can see there are a number of things that have to happen with the program, including downstream. If you don't offer it at every school, you have to set it up for transportation in between schools, which is an additional cost. So a lot to think about with this program, but obviously a very beneficial program. As is the next one, universal pre-K, transitional kindergarten, as you heard. I won't dwell on this, but here's some reference materials for you on how the stacking of the eligibility for 4-year-olds plays out. Next chart, please. There is money coming for that second person in the classroom. That still gets settled out, but as of yet, we won't be assuming this in the budget because we really haven't put a program together yet that takes both revenues and costs into account. So as that's developed into the district, we'll bring that into the budget. Reference materials are there for you. And this is just around staffing requirements as information. Next chart, please. We always operate with the school services dartboard. That's a little bit of an eye chart, but we have it with all the planning factors from COLAs to grade level spans to all the other information that's consistent generally across planning in all California schools. And then next chart, COVID-19 one-time funds. This is, we're all aware we have them. We're all aware that they're stacked up, and I will tell you they're budgeted across the district out through 2024 now. So you'll see that reflected in the restricted side of your budget. Key here is obviously how to wind down these programs when the time comes. So we have to keep a good handle on that. And the next chart shows the expiration dates of each one of those funds. So you have that for your information. As I wind up here, the road ahead. So in the words of school services, the governor has built his state budget capitalizing on a windfall that's likely to be short-lived. And so this feels like kind of 2006-07 all over again. Hopefully it is not as severe looking forward. Prop 98 is supposed to grow very little from 21 to 22, signaling a slowdown. So I think as governance and planners, we all have to be aware of that, and we'll see what happens. We obviously hope for the best, but we have to plan for the worst. So those are the keys coming out of the budget workshop. Good news and a lot of funds coming through, some great programs coming through. But we do have to take a step back and reflect on the larger picture of what may be happening down the road. So I'll leave that with you. And the last chart is, well, what do we do here? Well, we have our budget assumptions developed, and we've attached 3 pages of those distilled out of this presentation along with our local planning factors. I won't go through the detail on that, but I encourage you to read them. If you do have questions, happy to respond to those. If you want to take a glance at them now. So we have assumptions for the general fund. We have assumptions for other district funds that will be factored into the budgets that you will see here in just a couple of weeks, and the multi-year financial projections. We're currently coordinating with a local accountability plan. We have some work to do on that in the next week and a half, certainly from my end in the fiscal spot. But we'll bring that all to you with review and hearings on June 23rd, I believe, with budget adoption scheduled for June 27th. And then lastly, we'll see when the state adopts their budget. It seems like this is a better year than ever for the state. Sometimes when you have more money, you spend a little bit more time. So we'll just see if they meet their June 30th deadline. And at that point, when they do adopt the budget, we will decide if we need to revise the budget as is provided by law in the 45-day window. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Pretty fast delivery.
Thank you for that fast delivery, by the way. I really appreciate it when people don't have to read every word on a chart, because I can do that. And I really appreciate that you hit the high points and made it really comprehensible. Thank you very much for that. One of my questions has to do with reserves and how does one-time funding impact our ability to grow reserves in the district?
So the one-time funding, particularly if it's discretionary, can be used for reserves unless it's somehow restricted. Just the mere fact they're calling this one-time dollars discretionary seems to say you can do anything you want with it. And so you can backfill your reserves with it. We'll have to see what the rules look like when the budget's adopted.
Sure. Okay, thanks. And this money coming forward, the one-time money is viewed as expense type money. It's not for capital projects.
Again, if it's discretionary, you can do just about anything you want with it. You have several capital funds here. I would advise that we maybe coordinate those funds first and ask ourselves what we want to do with those before we dip into what might be considered operating funds.
Okay, thanks.
I was going to say thank you, Greg. Wonderful presentation, very thorough job. And I'm interested in once kind of sort this out with how this Neil's question. It was Neil's comment. What does this translate for Whitesboro ultimately? But I know there's still some work to do. So
there is, but I think the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to have some pretty clear answers for you. So I look forward to that, frankly. You know, you do too as well.
I guess it may not be as much a question for you as Dr. Harbeck, to be honest, is how the LCAP, getting input from the community about how the funds end up getting spent, like the LCFF funds and things like that, how we will do that, in anticipation of some of these additional funds. When will that happen?
I'll
It's
defer
just- yeah,
to Dr.
It's part of the LCAP process, and we've been doing a lot online this past year and a half, 2 years. So we're hoping to come back in person, do more of our workshop type models with the LCAP and that type of funding. But so it's all pretty transparent in those meetings.
But these things that Greg has been talking about will be handled in the new school year LCAP meetings.
Definitely. This has been a tough year for everybody as these big ticket items come down the path from the legislature, not fully defined, not fully approved. And so I had to go out and tell the community, hey, here's all these great things we're going to do. And you just don't have the dollars in hand yet.
I guess one other comment was just that I'm happy to see the special education funding increase and look forward, Dr. Silvers, with your leadership at the SELPA, making sure that Wiseburn gets its fair share of those dollars through that process.
So with building on what Rebecca just said about the special education funding, does this funding help mitigate some of the deficit spending that we're always finding ourselves to support those programs too? Does it help to offset some of that that sort of spending that comes out of the general fund because we have mandates that are not funded?
Sure. To the extent that special education encroaches upon your unrestricted general fund, obviously more funds in special education are going to help that. The next consideration is that assumes that costs for special education won't grow as fast as the new funds coming in to offset them. And that's always the challenge.
Sure, thanks.
So I think the question there might be when on June 23rd, when we do look at the new budget, see what encroachment there is from general funds on special ed, or are we making headway? That's of interest. My question was to the same effect on the ESSER funds. Will we be getting, with all of the revisiting of the budget and new processes, which I'm very appreciative of, we'll be understanding where we are in ESSER funds and the plans to use those funds so we don't lose them.
We certainly have the ability to come to you anytime now and tell you exactly what's in each one of those accounts and how it's being used.
That would be useful as well.
And what's left and what's been spent.
That's right.
Roger, any final comments?
Thank you.
This is, I've attended this workshop. It's like 12 hours long. So thank you for reducing this to 15 minutes or so. Well done, Greg. Thank you.
Well, they do a lot of good work, but I tried to get you the main part today. So thank you very much.
Really
Thank you.
good
Appreciate
job.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Excuse me, I'm going to take off. Thank you.
All right, appreciate that redirection. Let's now go to the board and Ms. Martinez.
Dr. Goldman. Just one quick comment, as we're getting ready to wind down the school year, I just want to take an opportunity to thank the administrators, the teachers and staff for, another wonderful year and yet challenging year. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone for their work. I see Dr. Steve Wallace in the audience as well. It's a thank you that's extended also to the Da Vinci staff. And I want to take an opportunity to congratulate also the students that are promoting this year and the graduates that are promoting this week here at Da Vinci. So, and I also want to take just a moment to thank Dr. Wallace for his services as a principal at Da Vinci that is coming to a conclusion here in the next few days, and he's on to a new role. So congratulations. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Nelson.
Joanne?
Oh. Sure, I feel like I talked enough already. Hello, everyone. I think I've given most of my updates. The relationship working with Da Vinci right now has been really encouraging. The amount of work that I think the board and the staff is putting into that relationship, because it is so important and we care so much about it, is a little bit unprecedented in my time on the board, which has been quite a while. So I'm happy to see us digging into those topics and really working hard to work hard together. And I appreciate that from our board and from the Da Vinci board as well. I think all good things will come out of that. As Nelson said, here we are at another school year, and unbelievable. And also very gratifying to have a community that is, what shall I say, comfortable and motivated, if you can be both of those things at the same time. Comfortable in who we are and our identity, and motivated to always do better and to improve who we are and where we're going next. So that's a really great community to be part of. And so I want to compliment the Weisburn community as well. And I include the Da Vinci community in that. Having Anna here this evening is a great opportunity to say thank you to Right at School, and thank you for all the childcare work that's done in our community also. Anna and I have known each other, I can't think, it's over 25 years, I'm sure, because I know how old Joey is now, and we are all a little older. So thank you for your continued service with our community and our students. Really appreciate it. Thank you to our 3 principals that are in the audience this evening. Appreciate all your efforts. Another year going by. How is it possible, right? And to all of our staff who's here and the board, and Wendy, of course, Dr. Silver. So it's humbling and energizing to be part of this community and part of this board. And I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone has an awesome time sort of off. Not that anybody actually gets off, but we stop doing some of the pressure work and have a chance to perhaps think instead of just going at a hugely fast pace. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Joanne. Roger?
Yes, thank you. Similarly, I'd like to thank all of our district staff and teachers for another wonderful year. Really looking forward to the Dana promotion on the 16th as well. My youngest son, Alex, is promoting. So that is my last son in the district after 4, having gone to the Weisburn Unified School District. So obviously I have a lot to be thankful for the school district, our teachers, and just our community as a whole. I can't thank everybody enough for what you've done. I've got 4 fantastic boys, and 2 are off in college. One is going to be a senior. Another one will be a senior at Da Vinci Science next year. And then Alex, as I said, my youngest is going also to Da Vinci Science next year. So in speaking about the partnership with Da Vinci Schools and what we have to look forward to and what we have built is just unbelievable. I mean, it's much easier to tear things down than to build them. And our plan is to make sure that it continues on in a very strong basis and through all the hard work and effort that everyone is doing. And just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to everybody for all your time, commitment, and dedication. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Rebecca.
for something completely different, I guess. I wanted to share some reflections on lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender Pride Month. Pride Month started as a commemoration of the 1969 Stonewall riots and works to achieve equality and justice and equal opportunity for LGBTQI Americans. In June of 1969, patrons and supporters of the Stonewall Inn in New York City staged an uprising to resist the police harassment and persecution to which LGBT Americans were commonly subjected. The uprising marked the beginning of a movement to outlaw discriminatory laws and practices against LGBTQI Americans. Federal and local policies and practices are increasingly acknowledging and focusing on these youth, and numerous national advocacy and other organizations are also giving greater attention to these youth and their work, encouraging greater acceptance and support for all of our youth, including those who are or are perceived to be LGBTQI+, will make communities, schools, and other settings safer, better places for all of our children. I would love to see the district raise the Pride Flag during June as a further signal of our support beyond the resolution that we are considering tonight, which I'm grateful that we will be considering. I also wanted to thank the district for putting together the recent community meetings on school safety. I appreciated being able to provide these forums for our families and others in the community to hear about measures our schools have taken to keep our children safe, and for providing resources to address mental and emotional health that recent traumatic events have raised. The information presented, the opportunity to ask questions and alleviate concerns is incredibly valuable. I encourage our families and community to take greater advantage of these opportunities when they are made available. There are certainly growth areas for the district, and I'm encouraged that the board has continued to prioritize safety as a leading area of concern. I also wanted to congratulate Tiara Jackson, a Weisburn Da Vinci athlete, on her 2 wins in the CIF D4 finals for the 500-yard and 200-yard freestyle swimming events, which is, as a former high school swimmer myself, I know is a huge achievement. So congratulations to Tiara. I also wanted to thank our elementary music teachers for the recent spring sing and I can't remember the word that Ms. Park used to describe the performances that we saw today and are continuing this week, both at Cabrillo and 138th Street School. I had the opportunity to attend those as well as at ANZA, and they've been just wonderful to watch the kids perform in multiple languages and using instruments, and they've just been, grateful that my children are part of that. And thank you again to WEF for continuing to support those programs by providing the instruments students are able to use and the teachers. And then finally, a couple meetings ago, I recommended that the district explore a special education parent advisory committee. I'm encouraged that discussions have begun about how to implement something along those lines in the new school year. I just wanted to add tonight that I would love to see us expand the idea beyond just special education and possibly include DEI topics and other parent education and engagement opportunities when we do launch whatever this ends up being. My hope is that we find more ways to engage parents in our community more broadly, to gauge their input and provide some opportunities for learning across the district.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well said, colleagues. Congratulations to all for making it through the year. Thank you all for your hard work and success. Rounding the clubhouse turn, we're nearly there. In the spirit of one of our assurances, collaborative community and collaboration, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I am proud to support the resolution that we have tonight about LGBTQ+, I+, as well as in the spirit of collaboration, we had the board members, we had the master plan input. I asked Dr. Silvers to ask the cabinet for their feedback in the spirit again of collaboration. Did you feel we got that right? Did you have any alternative thoughts or suggestions? It's my understanding, you're welcome to talk on this, that you did echo the same thoughts and didn't have any material changes, which is both reassuring as well as I'm glad we had that input from you. So thank you very much.
Yes, I think that it's the conversation with cabinet was really in line with what the board had prioritized. Really, those top 4 or 5 items were all items that are interchangeable, top 4 or 5, but really looking at those as the priority was saying we wouldn't have picked any better. So
well, and to the community, if I'm remembering correctly, they pretty much were all about safety.
They were, yeah.
that's as we move forward. Thank you very much, and thank you for participating there.
Neil, can I make one more comment?
Yeah.
I forgot this, which is unbelievable that I did, but I would like to welcome one of the newest members of the Weisburn community tonight, which is my new grandson. Not Joey's, who was born on Saturday. And he was 8 pounds, 2 ounces and 22 inches long. So he's a big boy. He's very welcome. And he might be one of the newest Weisburn community members here tonight with us in spirit. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Well, speaking of renaming.
Thank you.
No, that's fantastic. Looking forward to the promotion for Dana, the graduations. Thank you all board members for signing up to participate in those graduations. Makes me proud for our team. All right. I think at this point, let's move to the cabinet. And from our Director of Psychological Services, Ms. Mazzarella. We'll make you guys get your exercise.
Good evening, everyone. I have nothing special to share tonight. I just wanted to thank everyone for the end of a great school year. I mean, great. It's been a hard school year, but it's been a lot of learning for all of us. And thanks to all the teachers and particularly the special education staff, of course, for all of their hard work and getting through the end of the year. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Let's turn to our Assistant Soup of Human Resources, Dr. Dugal.
Good evening, everyone. As we talk about the end of the school year, HR is busy getting ready for the coming school year and summer school. So we've been busy staffing both ESY, summer school, as well as we've had retirements, also making sure we have our staffing up to date for the coming school year. Good news to share on Friday, June 3rd. So last Friday, we had our we had a vaccine clinic. We had 178 doses given out. Out of that, 108 of those were pediatric boosters, so the ages 5 to 11 group, which is who we were targeting. So it was a great turnout on a Friday evening and afternoon. But we're thankful to Fulgent and to WEF for their partnership as we were able to provide cookies and chocolate milk, and obviously Fulgent for the vaccine. So that's the update from HR.
Do we have another date planned for any more vaccines?
We will probably do something closer to the start of the school year. As there's other boosters that are approved or any other changes that happen to come into play.
I have a question. Do we have in our package tonight? I don't think we do. What openings we have in the district for which we're recruiting at this time?
I did not provide it, but I can absolutely provide the board with the current vacancies we have.
Really appreciate seeing that. Thank
Will
you.
do.
Thank you, Dr. Dugal. Our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Dr. Hart.
Hi, good evening again. We have submitted our draft of our LCAP to LACO. We have a reviewer, and this goes on every year. So we've gone through our first review of our metrics, our actions, and an analysis of any changes to those actions. So I'm just letting you know that we got back feedback we do every year, and working on those changes, and then working with Greg to finalize the budget for the LCAP. We're looking forward to bringing that back to you. We've wrapped up our state mandated testing, CAS, and our LPAC, which is our English language learner summative assessment that goes on at the end of the year. That was quite an undertaking. I want to thank Sarah Nitzos again for her leadership on the testing and her nagging, because you take a lot of that when you're coordinating this much testing. She does a great job with it. And then finally, we're kicking off summer school in June on the 27th. This is a small program for students that have been identified through their schools as needing some summer support. So that will kick off June 27th and run through July 22nd. And we are staffed for that as well. So those are two big programs going on.
Are we doing the STAR testing as well?
We do STAR testing throughout the year for our smaller children who aren't going through the state testing. They do the end of the year STAR testing. For the upper grades that continue with CASP, we don't mandate it because it's an overload of testing. We use the CASP results when we come back in August. It's optional. Some teachers do prefer to also add the STAR.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our Superintendent, Dr. Silvers.
Right, just a couple updates. I really wanted to defer my comments. Oh, sorry. Wanted to defer my comments to Mr. Magnus and to Greg to be able to share some updates on the budget, to be able to share our assumptions, which I'm glad you were able to review in your packet. This will be helpful moving forward. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or him or both of us. But just wanted to share a couple of things. First is, I want to say that, the screen looks great. I know Joanne was sharing, or Neil was sharing this earlier today. The screen looks great. And I just want to thank, our tech team for being here, and really for noticing these meetings are becoming more seamless as we're getting used to the process of being able to provide this kind of dual mode of having a board meeting. So it's been nice. So thank you to the team for that. I also want to update the board on something that was brought up, I believe, last board meeting regarding the Pledge of Allegiance. I know Dr. Harbeck spent some time conversing with the principals who are here. There were definitely some challenges in doing the pledge every day. However, it is board policy, so we are reinstituting our board policy, making sure that this is happening every day. So we don't need to. I guess my point was we don't need to alter our board policy; it already exists. We just need to follow it. So we'll do that part. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Also, an update on the pool. I wanted to give the update on the pool during my comments, but I already shared that. One item that I would like to say is, I know Jonathan Navas here, who's our Director of Maintenance and Operation, really, I didn't want to take credit for working on the pool. I know Jonathan has spent some time working on the pool and trying to coordinate, whether we're replacing, heaters or having a company come out to look at our heaters. Definitely there's work going on behind the scenes for that. So just wanted to thank the people that are doing that work. I also want to share with this board that yesterday, at the state level, the state allocation board did hear our case in terms of unused property, the unused property fee that was levied on the districts, a total about $800,000. We are expecting a refund. We were only charged the $187,000. We're looking for reimbursement there, and also basically canceling out that charge ongoing. So good news there. It was a bit of a kind of a punch in the gut, if you will, when we received that information. So feeling good that's.
This was just a paperwork issue from years ago that just need to be filed differently.
Right. It was all the way back 2014. So yeah, definitely good that that's taken care of. Great. Also want to thank Eileen and Sarah. I know there's these two, UPK and eLoop. Just one of the many plans and programs that we're looking at just to support children. They're all good programs, but really takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make those things happen. To be diligent in the planning of those. And then the next step certainly is going to be coordinated with the finance office, with the business office, to make sure that the budget for those programs and the programs themselves are well defined and able to be communicated well to the board. And I just also want to thank everybody. I'm going to save an acknowledgement for later on, but I do want to thank everyone for the work that they've done. Anna, it's good to see you today. Wish I saw you more, but it's nice to see you. Welcome, and really happy with how this program Right at School has just afforded our family so much flexibility after school and before school and middle of the day. Really a great opportunity for our kids. So thanks so much. That's it for me, Dr. Goldman.
Thank you, Dr. Silvers. All right, let's move to our agenda. Action items, general item 6.1, consider adoption of new school schedule for Wiseburn Unified. This is the conversation about early bird, late bird to full day. Needing a motion, please. Thank you. Thank you both. I'm sorry, Dr.
Make a comment.
Yes, please.
I think so. My acknowledgement, I just want to acknowledge to this board. I know this is a challenging decision. I also know that I just want to acknowledge the fact that, in the time of COVID and the year that we've had, this conversation is probably never a good conversation this time of year, or these types of conversations are challenging at this time of year as we're wrapping up the school year. I do appreciate, the diligence of our community that reached out to us individually and or collectively, as well as some of our teachers and staff who've reached out to us as well. I'd like to, thank the team that's here today for the work that they've done, behind the scenes to discuss and research, and then really, thank the board for the diligence that you put into this. So thank you. That's it.
And I'd also like to say thank you, Blake, and thanks to the teachers and principals and community members and board members who've had, we've had a lot of discussions about this. We've thought, done a lot of research into the value of the school minutes and the school day and the size of classes and how work with class sizes and make them successful. So I just want to encourage people that as we vote on this evening, we have done due diligence and are confident going forward that we'll make it work like we always do.
Thank you, Dr. Roman. I also just wanted to make a quick comment. I want to thank Dr. Silvers and Miss Ruby Del Rio, Miss Renee Amaral for the last board's presentation regarding the subject matter, the early bird, late bird program. And there's pros and cons to each program, as we've heard from both of them eloquently. And obviously, as a board and my colleagues, we take this decision seriously, and we've all done our research and so forth. A little bit about the program, the Early Bird Late Bird program. It was a program that was started in 1957 in the state of California. And that the reason for that program was to allow an opportunity for kids to have a reading program 1 hour before the school, 1 hour after. For late birds, it would be in the school day towards the end of the day, and 1 hour, and they would be split, right? So there would be a smaller class size. But it was during a time where there was 30 to 32 students in a classroom. And one of the things that occurred after that is that the actual classroom instruction started eroding. And hence, in 1983, they passed I think it's the Educational Reform Act, which is what we talked about in the presentation, the minutes, the requirement of minutes for K and K through 3 and so forth. And I think that's important to bring in that perspective, because on the heels of what we're going through with COVID, we've seen a lot of our students lose that classroom instruction. And so one of the things I want to do when I did a little bit more of the research on considering going from an early bird, late bird program to a full day is really to make sure that we're making a decision. And I know that we share that, including the teachers and everybody that has been involved in this dialogue, is that we're making a decision in the best interest of the students. One of the things that I discovered that was overwhelming in terms of the research and analysis and the results is that classroom instruction, the increase of classroom instructions benefited the students over and over, helped the English language learners and the minorities. You would think that in a smaller school setting like the early bird, late bird, that differential education, that smaller class size would benefit those kids, but the results are actually that full day kindergarten and more classroom instructions benefit those students. And so I think that's important. And what we're talking about going from the early bird, late bird program to a full day kindergarten program is you're talking about 36,000 minutes that were required by law right now, and possibly increasing that anywhere from 40 to 50% more. That's a pretty significant when you look at the classroom instruction of minutes. So just wanted to share that, because I think it's important for the community, for everyone to know when we make our decisions, why we're making those decisions. So that's all.
Thank you very much.
Comment. One of the benefits of having, or as we've had the presentations for early bird, late bird, has been the discussion of smaller learning groups. Dr. Silvers, can you talk to us a little bit about if we were to move into, or the elimination of early bird, late bird, what happens, or how are students still going to be given the opportunity to work in smaller learning groups? How does the program get impacted? And if this, I understand you may not have everything vetted out, but is it complete elimination of small learning groups, or what would be an initial vision of that plan?
Yeah, I mean, so there are ways. I mean, there's creative ways, there's operational ways, logistically, that we can make small learning groups happen in a classroom. I think there's some exploration that we want to do as a team, make sure we can hammer those out. But I don't think they're mutually exclusive. You can do both. I would suspect, I mean, I see 3 principals here, and I hate to put you on the spot, but Lisa, do you want to share? You could probably better answer that from a site level. And
well, one thing is our teachers are just really tremendous educators, and they have a lot of training, and they're extremely capable, and they're doing small groups for other subjects. I think it should be a conversation about what it looks like for reading, and it might mean more support. It might mean some more collaboration or professional development time for teachers to work together to plan, just like we've done for writing this year. But I have a tremendous faith in our instructors who are already doing this work for math and for other areas. And I think having additional time with the students will allow them to explore more instructional strategies that the time constraints haven't maybe allowed for previously. So they're already doing the work. It might just mean that instead of having one group at a teacher table and 2 other groups in the classroom, maybe it's one group with the teacher and there's 4 other groups in the classroom. But I know, because they have told me and I've seen it, that there are ways to make that work. There are ways to establish those routines. And especially if there is additional aid support in the classroom, I just really have a lot of faith in the ability of our teachers.
I could add to it, and Albert, I don't know if you can come up too, but one of the questions that has come up is. It's like Zoom in person. What I was saying was, Albert, maybe you can come up for a quick minute too. I think that about 3 years ago, maybe almost 4, I know Nisha probably recalls this, but we started exploring the early bird late bird schedule. And there was some conversation as to, could you use our specials? You know, you have your music, art. That was gonna be my question. Yeah. So I think that just at face value, I know that logistically the principals had talked about that as being an option, maybe taking 12 students from class A and 12 from class B and having a schedule where the teacher is afforded some time. It wouldn't be every day, but afforded some time. So Albert, I don't know if you want to.
Sure, I can speak on that. Just to follow, agree with Lisa, we have some talented, hardworking teachers that I know are up to any challenge, and they value small group instruction. It's very clear, and right now it's done through Early Bird Later Gator. With that said, there are strategic ways to keep the class size down. Using what we call our specials, and that would be our PE time, our music time. But as I talk to teachers about this, they like the idea, but we also, they want to make sure that we remember and that some of those times are used for extra planning and looking at student data. So as we move forward with those ideas, to keep that open as a thought. But yes, like Dr. Silver said, you would, rather than have, say, room 4 go to PE or music, you would have half of room 4 and half of room 5 go to music for one part of for that hour, and the other hour it would be the other half, and then the teachers would still look at data to inform grouping and go from there.
So small learning groups are not going away. They're going to be provided in different ways over a longer period of time during the day.
That would be the goal. So yeah, there's going to be some time to transition and prepare and plan and all that, but that is the goal.
Thank you.
Roger, I think I'd like to just share that, one of the challenges for the district is going to be to build this program, to rebuild, a new program that's based on a full day model. And I just want to say there's going to be iterations to this. It's not going to obviously be perfect year 1, but we do plan to work really diligently with the staff, with our principals, with our teachers, so that should the board decide to move in this direction, that we have some, we do have a plan to improve. It'll just be continuous improvement like we do with everything, assuming that the board takes action in favor of this today.
Just wanted to add that, I thank you to all the community members who have provided input to the board, whether it was at the meeting last week or through the share your comments, share your thoughts. I think it's been a really robust dialogue that I've seen, both, internally within the board, with the cabinet, with the different schools, and then with the folks in the community, including the teachers and staff and parents. So I was really encouraged by the conversation at the last board meeting. I felt like there was an airing of all of the sides and the thoughts and things like that. And I also recognize that the teachers that presented, they presented that, you know, their opinions, and that other teachers in the district have different thoughts about that. So I want to acknowledge that that there's no sort of one size fits all, even across our staff, or that that we had any expectation that the presentations that were made were universally representative of everybody, but that we did really hear from folks and listen to them. And I know folks have come up to me in the community and shared their thoughts. So thank you to everyone who's been part of that. And I'm encouraged and looking forward to seeing what the new year will bring. And just echoing what Dr. Silver said, that this is, it's going to be new, and change can be scary, and and change can also be invigorating. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes, and that we'll continue to learn from this and grow and be able to do that. But just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Just my thought, I appreciate the individual conversations that I've had with board members, teachers who have reached out to other school districts, other districts and teachers elsewhere, as well as reading the comments from educators. And I'm especially moved by the comments by educators outside of our district who are parents in our district, and their near universal support of extended day. I found that very interesting, having seen both. I am, with all this saying, I am concerned about giving our teachers support. We're asking a lot of them next year, should we pursue this? And if we do, I ask that we not only do the specials, the pullouts, but find, especially if we get some of that money, to consider and encourage us to consider using that money for supports for the teachers, to give them the further classroom management tools and supports and aids as possible. Let's be realistic, it's not gonna be every classroom, but to the extent we can, to support them. So I don't know if Dr. Silver, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Dr. Goldman. And I would say that, I believe in the work that Eileen does and Sarah does. And I just think that together we can come up with a really comprehensive plan with the principals, just very, very solid, educators that want to do what's right, for students, of course, but also for the staff. I mean, this is as I said, should a change occur, I acknowledge the fact that this is a big lift. I think there's a sense of wanting some grace for some of the time it may take to build, but also definitely feel like we have the tools in place to be able to make the right decisions, the right programs, and build this out effectively. So, looking forward to, maybe continuing this conversation.
Yeah. All right, let's take this to a vote. All 6.1, consider adoption of new school schedule. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. 6.2, approve universal pre-K plan. The UPK plan as proposed by Dr. Harback, presented.
Yeah, motion.
Thank you.
Rebecca, yeah.
Comment or question?
Just thank you, Dr. Harback, as always, for your presentations are also welcome in that they are brief, to the point, very informative, and actionable. So thank you for that.
6.2, approve universal pre-K plan UPK. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. 6.3, approve expanded learning opportunities program, the eLoop program, as presented also by Dr. Harback and Dr. Nitsos or Sarah Nitsos on the phone. Basically.
Yeah, motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then 6.4, adopt resolution number 21/22.33, celebrate June as LGBTQI+ Pride Month. And we have a resolution that can we have a motion first, please?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Dr. Ingram, are you going to read the resolution for us?
Yes.
That'd be lovely. Thank you.
Okay, a resolution of the Board of Trustees to celebrate June as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex Pride Month. Whereas the Wiseburn Unified School District is committed to fostering a safe, respectful, inclusive, and equitable culture for all community members. And whereas Board Policy 0410 prohibits discrimination in its programs and activities based on gender or sexual orientation, among other characteristics. And whereas the Fair Education Act of 2012 called for fair, accurate, inclusive, and respectful representations of our diverse population in the K through 12 grade history and social studies curriculum. And whereas the Student Success and Opportunity Act of 2013 strengthened protections for transgender students and affirmed that transgender students should be allowed to participate in school activities, programs, and facilities consistent with their gender and identity. And whereas the California Fair and Employment and Housing Act prohibits employment discrimination based on sexual orientation. And whereas many residents, students, family members, and school personnel are part of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex community, and they contribute greatly to the enrichment of our WUSD schools and Wiseburn community. And whereas although advancements have been made with respect to equitable treatment of LGBTQI+ persons, and LGBTQI+ persons still face discrimination simply for being who they are, thus making it important for all districts and all communities to stand up and show support for all of our students, staff, and families who are affected. And whereas many cities across the United States recognize and celebrate June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month, and whereas June has historically become a symbolic month in America in which LGBTQI+ persons and allies come together in various celebrations of pride to support the community's right to live their lives out loud. And now therefore, the Wiseburn Unified School District does hereby declare the month of June as LGBTQI+ Pride Month in our schools, and invites everyone to reflect on ways we all can live and work together with a commitment to mutual respect and understanding during the month of June and year round. And okay.
Thank you.
And it ends with and.
And, okay.
And then there's action.
There you go. Well, one of our assurances is collaboration and community, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is all of our Pride Month's about inclusion. We're all better when we love and respect one another, when we have a place for everyone, when everybody feels they are worthy and right. This is right to give them that opportunity and give everybody that chance. So I'm very proud of this. I hope we're unanimous. You can vote as you wish, but I hope we're unanimous in accepting this. And I call for a vote at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much, Wendy. Action items, facilities, and I'm seeing Dr. Wallace here. Maybe we'll turn to you to update us here if you're willing. This is action items, facilities 7.1, ratify amendment 1 to the agreement with SBA for the CTU studio project and approve amendment with methane specialist is 7.2. Can I have a motion? I think we can take these together. Thank you.
I know Roger's been working on that, so
Yeah.
we'll give him the courtesy of the motion.
Yeah.
Unless there's any questions, if they can just give a couple
Can you
comments.
give like a fast rundown, like we really love having?
Sure.
Stephen?
Like a fast rundown, Roger.
SBA contract agreement. This is a collaboration between Da Vinci Schools and Wiseburn, since Da Vinci is actually funding the construction of the CTE building project, also with the state funds. Since we have two boards, this allows Da Vinci Schools to have more flexibility and expedite the process for approvals in case there's a request for an ad service from SBA Architects. It's an not to exceed amount of $50,000 that would come back to this board as a ratification. Normally, this board has to approve it, but by us approving this item, it would help them give them more flexibility and speed of the process.
I guess my question is, why do we need the 50,000? What does it do?
It's a budget amount. It does not have to be spent.
Okay.
If they don't use it, that just gets retained and it stays within the Da Vinci funds.
And if it does need to get spent, who approves that?
The Da Vinci board would be approving that, and then it comes to us for information to ratify, because they are paying for all those monies up front.
And to clarify, this does not impact the Wiseburn budget in any way. They were talking only about Da Vinci funds.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Dr. Wallace, anything you want to add there?
No, it's been perfect.
All right, good deal.
Thank you. Item 7.2, this one, we would like to make an amended motion actually for it to be in the amount of $11,175. The agenda item shows $9,200. This would be the first amendment to SBA Architects for the design of a methane mitigation system at the location of the CTE studio. We have a methane mitigation system here at this building. It was not included as part of the original design. It was not included as part of the original design and fee for SVA Architects. So this would be to bring on a consultant, methane specialist. I believe their cost was $8,200, and then there's a fee for SVA Architects to actually coordinate, design, and incorporate that into the documents, adding up to the 11,175. I think it's a prudent way to move forward. There's still some in terms of incorporating it into the design. Steve, I think there's some other conversations that we can look at here, because we would be eventually would be moving forward with the design, incorporate it, get the project into DSA, meet the deadline for the OPSC funding. However, by engaging the consultant and possibly the planning network, if that system is not required, we could potentially look at a design alternate to pull it out, and then Da Vinci doesn't have to spend the funds in construction. So we have a good 6 to 9 months to make that determination. However, this is a good use of funds because it doesn't hold up the project, and it doesn't hold up or jeopardize the grant funding, which is well over $1 million. So it's as good assurance for $11,000.
So just to cross our Ts and dot our Is, would you please withdraw your earlier motion, make a new motion with this amendment?
Yes. I'd like to withdraw the original motion of 7.2 for $9,200 and make it for the 11,175 as the first item.
And that's for 7.1 and 2 together with that amendment.
Correct.
I'll second exactly that same comment.
All right. Just want to make sure we're doing this by the book. Any further comments or questions?
No.
All right. All in favor of 7.1 and 7.2?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Action items fiscal. Thank you for that, Rob. Action items fiscal 8, approve 8.1, approve issuance of 2022-23 tax and revenue anticipation notes trans, and adopt resolution 21/22.34. This is to allow us to borrow funds should we need them. We've done this before. It's just on the off chance we need it, we have that option at very low cost funds. Motion, please.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Any comment or questions?
I could just make one comment that we don't necessarily, it's really preemptive here. We don't foresee, especially after the budget presentation, I don't think we foresee a cash flow issue, but you never know, and it's just better to have this.
I mean, we looked at this in the past. I'm assuming it's the same basic rule. The cost of funds were astronomically low. Right. So it was just such, you can't get any cheaper money if we need it. We shouldn't need it, but it's smart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dr. Goldman, we actually have to do a roll call vote on this one.
Wendy, would you do a roll call, please?
Ms. Canetta?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Dr. Goldman?
Aye.
Mr. Van Willows?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Consent items 9, 1, 2, and 3. Motion, please. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you very much. Comments or questions here? No? Look at you say something, Joanne.
No.
Just watching. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. And then action items 10, I would like to do these individually to honor these really remarkable people that have dedicated so much time to our schools, to our community. 10.1, adopt resolution number 21/22.30, honoring Barbara Green. We have a motion for this, please.
A motion.
And a second. Thank you. I think, Mr. Paredes, if you'd be so kind as to read the resolution.
Absolutely. Superintendent Dr. Silvers, board, and Weisburn community, I am honored and privileged to be up here to read these resolutions for 3 people. I know we're doing one at a time, but for people who gave some of their best years to ANZA and the Weisburn community, actually, because they were at multiple sites. So let's start with Barbara Green. For 27 years of service in the Weisburn Unified School District, those employees who have devoted a very significant part of their work life to the Weisburn Unified School District deserve special recognition. Weisburn has changed greatly over the past 27 years, and this change has brought many challenges to all our employees. Commendations are in order for those individuals who have led this change and affected the lives of our students and staff. Whereas Barbara Green, in rising to meet the challenges of providing for our students, has for 27 years been a beloved member of the Wiseburn Unified School District. Whereas Barbara Green has gone above and beyond the call of duty to help support students at ANZA as a playground supervisor, an instructional aide, and before that, a parent volunteer. Whereas Barbara Green, as described by teachers, can with little direction take an idea and turn it into something precious by infusing her artistic talent. It is always evident when something has had Barbara's touch added to it. And whereas Barbara Green is a self-starter, caring, dependable, reliable, enthusiastic, and always willing to help in any capacity to ensure that students have what they need to be successful. And whereas Barbara Green has been an outstanding member of the ANZA team. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Wiseburn Unified School District publicly commends and recognizes Barbara Green for her years of dedication to the children, parents, and staff members of the Wiseburn Unified School District. Adopted this 7th day of June 2022.
It's only worked 4 years. Thank you. All in favor of this resolution? Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you very much, Albert. Thank you, Barbara, for your years of service. You made a huge contribution. Really appreciate you. Let's now move to our second honoree this evening, 10.2, adopt resolution 21/22.31, honoring Maureen Martineau. Motion first, please. Motion. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you both.
All right. Resolution honoring Maureen Martineau for 34 years of service at the Wiseburn Unified School District. Resolution number 21/22.31. Those employees who have devoted a very significant part of their work life to the Wiseburn Unified School District deserve special recognition. Wiseburn has changed greatly over the past 34 years, and this change has brought many challenges to all our employees. Commendations are in order for those individuals who have led this change and affected the lives of our students and staff. Whereas Maureen Martineau, in rising to meet the challenges of providing for her students, has for 34 years been a beloved member of the Wiseburn Unified School District, serving 5 years at Dana and 29 years at ANZA as a kindergarten teacher. Whereas Maureen Martineau used her magnificent smile, caring demeanor, and calming voice to serve as the perfect kickoff to any school year of any school day. And whereas Maureen Martineau each day has worked tirelessly to plant the seeds of learning and love of learning in many first-year students. And whereas Maureen Martineau has brought honor and prestige to Wiseburn through her work with the ANZA staff to attain California Distinguished School status in 2000, 2004, and in 2020. And whereas Maureen Martineau put the kind back in kindergarten. If someone was going through a difficult time, she always was the first to reach out to them. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Wiseburn Unified School District publicly commends and recognizes Maureen Martineau for her years of dedication to the children, parents, and staff members of the Wiseburn Unified School District, adopted this 7th day of June, 2022.
We haven't voted on this one, right? All in favor of adopting this resolution?
Aye.
All opposed? I have a comment I'll make on both Maureen and Rebecca and Becky when we're done, but we want to give her due as well. Her being Rebecca Rebolado, 10.3, resolution 21/22.32. Motion, please. Yeah, motion. Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Roger.
Resolution honoring Rebecca Becky Rebolado for 34 years of service in the Wiseburn Unified School District, resolution number 21/22.32. Those employees who have devoted a very significant part of their work life to the Wiseburn Unified School District deserve special recognition. Wiseburn has changed greatly over the past 34 years, and this change has brought many challenges to our employees. Commendations are in order for those individuals who have led this change and affected the lives of our students and staff. Whereas Rebecca Rebolado, in rising to meet the challenges of providing for our students, has for 34 years been a beloved member of Wiseburn Unified School District, serving 5 years at Dana and 29 years at ANZA as a kindergarten teacher. Sound familiar? And whereas Rebecca Robolato has each year achieved the fundamental goal of getting first-year learners to love school and love learning. And whereas Rebecca Robolato has brought honor and prestige to the Weisburn through her work with the ANZA staff to attain California Distinguished School status in 2000, 2004, and in 2020. Whereas Rebecca Robolato for decades created a positive learning environment that balances play and discovery with risk-free environment that challenges daily learning. And whereas Rebecca Robolato has made a difference in the lives of students and their families, she has built relationships with many parents of both present and past students. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Weisburn Unified School District publicly commends and recognizes Rebecca Robolato for her years of dedication to the children, parents, and staff members of the Weisburn Unified School District, adopted this 7th day of June 2022.
All in favor of adopting this resolution?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you very much, Albert. Just a very quick story, if I may. My first connection with Weisburn was at ANZA School through Helen Bell, who was the principal at the time, and we chose where to live because in part of meeting Helen Bell and the people at ANZA School. My 28-year-old daughter now and Jennifer went through Becky and Maureen taught together when they came in, and they were team teaching. And we had such an amazing experience with her. One of my first advocacy moments at Weisburn was to advocate for changing the policy of allowing your second child to have the same teachers, which Helen was thankfully allowed us to do. So both my daughters, Jen and Lindsay, are better because of you, Becky and Maureen, wherever you are. Thank you for a fantastic start. I know you came in together. It looks like you're going out together. You will be missed and loved and appreciated. So thank you from me personally. Thank you so very much for the impact you've had on our family. Any other thoughts or comments?
Well, obviously, thank you for the years of service to all three of our folks being recognized this evening. It's a tribute to you and to you folks that we're recognizing and to the Weisburn community that this kind of partnership exists and continues in our teams. And I congratulate them on their success, on their contributions, and on their future. Thank you very much.
I also wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you to both Ms. Martineau and Ms. Robolato as well. Aiden had Ms. Robolato in kindergarten and Colin had Ms. Martineau, and I'm very grateful to them. And unfortunately, we didn't get the combo deal that you did. But both of them were great, and I want to wish them the best.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you for that. Good luck to all three of you and wherever your next endeavors take you. Now we move to upcoming dates and events, which I can't see on my screen. So if you could scroll that up. And I can't see it there either. So if you guys can walk it through it for us. Perhaps Blake, you're at a microphone, maybe you can help us out there.
Promotions and graduations.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not much going on these last. All right, so we do have, really excited that we have our Da Vinci graduations this week. I know that many of us will be attending those. There's the DV Connect 8th grade promotion is tomorrow, 4 o'clock, and we have all the Da Vinci high schools, well, the 3 Da Vinci high schools facilities, that are physical high schools here on site, 201, DV Communications at 11 a.m. on Thursday, also Thursday, that's June 9th. Also Thursday at 2 p.m. we have DV Science, and then following that at 5 p.m. we have Da Vinci Design. Then ANZA's 5th grade promotion is Wednesday, June 15th. Sorry.
At 10 a.m.
It's at 9:30 if you want to be early, but it's going to start at 10. We just wanted to make sure people were on time. 138th Street School promotion will be Wednesday, June 15th, and that'll be at 10:30. Dana Middle School promotion, which is definitely the largest of the promotions in the Weisburn Unified School District, is Thursday, June 16th, 2022 at 2 p.m. and it'll be about 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is Thursday, June 23rd. That's at 6 p.m. And then that's just followed up by our budget approval meeting, which would be on the 27th. So lots going on in the next few weeks, but exciting times.
That's it.
Any other issues to bring up before we end our meeting this evening? Well, with that said, and I can't see the time, it is 8:01. At 8:01 this evening, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.